So thinking about, how working with individuals of diverse backgrounds, just what are some of the difficulties in applying neuropsychology to folks of diverse cultural
Mhm.
backgrounds? And how do you think neuropsychology will adapt to this changing world?
Yeah. So obviously this deserves like a 4-hour answer. But to bullet point some of these, a lot of the history of science in general and medical science, but including in the neuropsychology world, we have a lot of research showing effects of things on cognition, for example,
Mhm.
correlation of brain parts with how they manifest behaviorally, done mainly on white people, mainly certain ages, mainly certain
Mhm.
SES, education levels, certain demographics, not that diverse, let's say. And we utilize a bunch of tools for assessing cognitive functioning and comparing people to normative data.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
usually on those same groups, right? The white, educated, and so on. Um, that might not represent the patient that we're looking at, right? So comparing them to this normative data that's supposed to be representative may not. Which is a lovely thing about this test retest that we talked about in the very beginning. If you have someone's own
Data.
numbers from before whatever, then you compare them to themselves and not have to worry about biased in normative data sets, for example. But there's that. There's norms, there's validation of these tests that we've shown that this test is great at detecting Alzheimer's
Mhm.
in white, very well off people with no disability. That's another thing in research diversity,
Right.
uh, etc. Right? People with spare time to join studies. Um, so that's a big one, is applying this research, especially all these tools that we use, to a certain demographic that's changing in America and is becoming less and less relevant to patients. There is plenty of research trying to cross-culturify basically the norms and validation of a lot of these tests, or to make new
Right.
tests that have been designed with that in mind. But there's not a lot, and that's why there's been some big initiatives in these neuropsych associations to say, we're not keeping up with the times. If things keep going, we're working on it slightly, but diversity in the world is going like this. There's already a gap, first of all. We're already not meeting the
Right.
needs, but that's going to keep spreading if we don't up our trajectory of diversifying our research and so on, right? Making it culturally appropriate.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so that's part of it. Other things about, again, how we spread research to the community. You might be speaking a certain language in a way,
Mhm.
that we need to diversify to not just the lay person, but all different types of lay people or non-scientific people, of all types,
Mhm.
and including with how you even talk to a patient. We can break it down all the way to the things that we have in common with non-neuropsychologists, which is, how do you approach some of these topics with somebody, depending on
Right.
their background, depending on their culture, depending on their individual, their own nature, you know?
Right. Right.
Um, so yeah, I don't know if some of that made sense. You want to fill in any gaps that I missed?
No, I think that's super apropos. Like we do know that the research that we've been using has missed a large part of the diverse community for a very long time. Um, I can't think of his name, but something Guthrie. He even his book, even the rat was white, um, talked about like the disparity in communities, you know, of color because there wasn't research being done on them. We can also spend lots of time talking about access to care and the different resources that are available, who gets access to a neuropsychologist, things like just things like that. So what are we going to be doing in the field to adapt to this changing world? Well, I think already we're seeing some of those changes, the big initiatives that you talked about with the neuropsych communities, the 2050, which is literally working towards diversifying the research data. There's lots of entities involved in that, and that's fantastic. We're not quite sure what impact it will have, but do think that it will make a difference in terms of like where the cutoffs are in some of the things, but it might have an even more different impact. So it's something to be mindful of.